Well, hello everyone. I want to welcome you back to our video series on Sharia law that we called Sharia Law, the Islamic Talmud. And we started our discussions of the historical development of Sharia. And today we will continue with that, obviously, with me here virtually in our studios to unpack all of that for us and discuss this historical development of the schools of Sharia is our dear brother Lloyd De Jongh. Lloyd, thank you as always.
Thank you, Fadi. Much appreciated.
So last time you gave an overview about the development of Sharia under Umayyads and Abbasids, and today I think you're going to take even a deeper look at that. So I want to
we'll
hand
look
it
more
over
at the
to you.
history and the sources because now we're trying to find where did all this come from? Whose ideas did they take to create this legal system?
Very good. Please take it away.
All right. So the Umayyads, they 661 to 750. So during this period, the Umayyads established the foundation of Islamic law under their qadis, their judges, and they judge according to sound opinion. They also utilize customary norms which differed from region to region, which later had to be harmonized, which is why you have differences between schools. And they judge according to the letter and the spirit of the Quran, but this was leading to fragmentation. For those who want, they can look at Encyclopaedia of Islam, Volume 2, under the fiqh, pages 926 in the PDF or 888 in the book itself, and you will find that these people were making assertions. So, in other words, they would claim that a scholar in Muhammad's period or close companion of Muhammad would do something, and therefore they say, therefore, this is law, and what I've written here as law is valid. And they would simply just constantly try to redact or backdate all of their claims onto the past. And Jay has mentioned this many, many times, how they try to backdate things to give them legitimacy. And within the Encyclopedia of Islam, this is very openly, effectively admitted. Two schools that emerge. You've got those who are the revelationists, and they want to stick to the Quran and the words of Allah and Muhammad as they were spoken. This is in Mecca and Medina, but the center of power of Islam moves away from Mecca and Medina, and you've got Basra in Iraq now, right? You've moved away from Damascus, and what you have now are rationalists, people who want to utilize exegesis, thinking, free reason. And now you've got a split. Those who are saying, but your thinking is taking away from the Quran, and those who are saying, but the Quran doesn't have enough information for us to make determinations. Now, informed opinion, ijtihad, is required in the absence of clear textual authority, and the Quran, unfortunately, is admitted by the scholars not to be sufficient to provide information for every circumstance, and therefore they had to use reason to come up with laws. Now, the Arabs conquer Mesopotamia, Syria, and Palestine from 633 to 651. Jerusalem and Ctesiphon in Iraq fall by 638, and the Persian Empire had a centuries-old tradition of formal lawmaking. Well, what's interesting is we learn from scholars that the material influences causing changes in the doctrines of other Islamic law schools continued to proceed almost exclusively from the law schools of Iraq. So Schacht concludes with Goldziher that Muhammadan jurisprudence or Islamic law originated in Iraq, not in Arabia, not in Mecca, not in Medina, but Islamic law originated in Iraq.
That is interesting.
Now, from Persia to Plato, oddly enough, most of the leading Sunni imams were Persian. Now, here you've got Mecca, round about this area here, right? But this is the area where these scholars are distributed. Abu Hanifa, Al-Nisai, Al-Tirmidhi, Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, right? You know Muslim from the Sahih Muslim, Ibn Majah, Al-Ghazali, Ibn Sina, and many others. They come from this region, not from Arabia. So now you've got foreigners who've taken control, and these ideas are now being taken from their regions into the Quran, into Islamic jurisprudence. Al-Farabi is a very interesting character. We'll discuss him a little bit. So he's the guy that takes Plato's The Republic, because now suddenly they've got an empire. They need to create rules and laws to unify an empire. They want the perfect empire, the perfect caliphate, the Khalifa. And of course, Plato writes The Republic about how to create the perfect republic, the perfect city, the perfect world, the perfect law. And Al-Farabi is the guy who interprets Plato through the lens of the Neoplatonists. And that's got a link to Haran in Turkey as well. But he interprets Plato through the Neoplatonists, and that's how they develop the idea of the Republic from Greek philosophy through the Neoplatonists. The Hanafi, 699 to 767. They were founded by Abu Hanifa al-Numan ibn Thabit, the greatest Imam, born in 80 AD in Kufa, Iraq. He was a rationalist. Now, he used the Quran, the Hadith, and the Ijtihad, and his schools are dominant in Turkey, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Jordan, and Lebanon, which should answer a question you had earlier, Al-Fadi. Has decided court cases. Okay, so Hanafi law, Hanafi fiqh has decided court cases in the majority of Islamic lands because he wrote his school has the single biggest, most detailed book of Islamic law, the Hadaya. And his works have been used for the majority of Islamic history, including the Abbasids and the Ottoman periods, right? It still maintains its preeminence in Islamic courts. He was the very first to analyze Islamic jurisprudence. He divided it into subjects. He distinguished its various issues, and he determined the range and criteria for how to think about each, how to utilize reasoning within each subject of Islamic law. And Shafi says, in jurisprudence, all the scholars are the children of Abu Hanifa. Now, Ray is one's own judgment, for those who saw that word Ray, right? So in the absence of traditional ruling, one has to use one's own judgment. And we saw earlier, only these imams have absolute judgment. Lay Muslims are not allowed to practice judgment. Only a mujtahid, someone who's qualified, can practice judgment. And Hanif, in Islamic writings, one who follows the original and true monotheistic religion, Abu Hanifa. So he was a true Muslim. He cannot be claimed to be someone who is not a real Muslim, right? Just want to mention that. So the Hanafiya is the religion of Abraham or Islam. So they claim that Islam was the religion that Abraham followed, not the founder of Judaism, but he actually followed Islam before he became a Jew, according to the narrative. So in other words, he was a pagan then. Okay, the Malikis, 715 to 795. So this school is founded by Malik ibn Anas ibn Malik al-Himyari. Himyari, this alludes to Yemen. He was the scholar of Medina, born in Medina in year 93 AH and 712 AD. He was a traditionist. He relied on the Quran, and he used minimal reasoning. He was trying to simply use the literal verbatim words of the Quran and the Hadith. His school is common in Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Egypt, Sudan, Bahrain, and Kuwait. Now, they say here he did not mount his horse within the confines of Medina out of reverence for the ground that enclosed the Prophet's body. And in fact, if you look at Bukhari, Muslims claim that he performed miracles. He literally performed miracles. So they make lots of these claims, of these scholars, to give them some degree of legitimacy. And apparently, he would not even speak a hadith without first performing ablution. He wrote the Al-Muwatta, the Trodden Path, apparently the greatest hadith collection of its day, and almost all accepted by Bukhari. And Shafi said of him, after the Book of Allah, no book has appeared on earth that is sounder than Malik's.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yes, sorry.
Interesting about Malik ibn Anas because his father is allegedly one of the companions of Muhammad, or at least was immediately after the time of Muhammad. And yet Muhammad died in 632 and he's born in 712. So, man, his father lived a long life and definitely gave birth to him at an old age. So that's amazing.
Yeah, one has to wonder about even the dates are inconsistent. 715 here, 712 here. Yeah. So it's really hard to pin it down to an exactness. Yes. Yeah. So that's definitely, it's a very good point you raise. Right, the Abbasids, 750 to 950. So this is where the Hadith and the Sunnah are collated. Later on, I'll have a diagram, an actual timeline, where you'll see just how long this timeline is. Hadith and Sunnah are collated during the 8th to 9th century. The fiqh and the ijtihad become a structured discipline under the Abbasids. It becomes a formal body of knowledge. You have lawyers, you have courts, you have a structured set of law, right? You have a corpus, so books of law. And the schools of Islamic legal thought emerge with state support. They become organs of the state, and therefore they have to be subservient to and serve the state, the aims of the state. Debates are still ongoing, and students join to learn and develop each madhab. And 4 main schools emerge during this period. Now, of course, notice you have 2 schools here in the north and 2 schools here in the south, Mecca, Medina, and you've got Basra and Kufa in Baghdad. So you've got this long separation between these schools, and they think in different ways, and those had to be merged and joined. And very briefly, I will cover this in the next one. We have to speak about Islamic Platonism. So after Aristotle, called al-Falasuf, the philosopher, Plato is the most important philosophical authority of the non-Arab tradition. Right? Islamic Platonism relies on mostly Hellenistic commentaries and paraphrases on Plato, as well as non-canonical writings, apocrypha, that are not extant today in the Greek original. In other words, they borrow Plato, but they thought that they were teaching Plato, but they borrowed it through interpretations from as I said, the Neoplatonists. So what people will learn next, and what I'll discuss, is that Islamic law actually, and Islamic thinking, derives and takes a great deal from Plato, from Greek thought. And this is a very little known subject, but very interesting. And I'll stop here, Fadi.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And next time we are going to continue, I assume, with the same topic, the historical development. Is that true?
Yes.
Yep.
Thank
you so much. Thanks. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Hopefully, you're enjoying this video series. Feel free to always, of course, inspect the links provided to you in the description box below these videos. And at the same time, share your thoughts or comments or even questions with us. In fact, I am going to invite Lloyd at some point to do a live stream just to address the questions that we will be receiving from many of you. Until then, have a blessed day. Thank you for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel, CIRA International, and click on the bell so that you receive notifications whenever we publish a new video or go live. I would also like to appeal to you to consider becoming a Patreon patron by clicking the link right below. By doing so, you can give towards the production of these videos. There are also other options for you where you can give to our channel. I thank you from the bottom of my heart.